The thing, the fruit of your labor. Let's say it. The fruit of your labor. The fruit of your labor. Once more. The fruit of your labor. Let's think about that. That comes from Psalm 128. And it reads, "Blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to him. You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours." The fruit of your labor. As I said, I'm going to use Neville's excerpt. You have a copy in your bulletin, where from the book, The Power of Awareness, he talks about attention. There is one chapter, and the one single heading of that chapter is attention. We're going to use that text to help us to bring alive this one scripture, Psalm 128. "Blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to him. You will eat the fruit of your labor." Dr. Ernest Holmes is going to precede the spirit of Neville and help Neville set it up. Dr. Holmes says in the glossary of the Science of Man textbook, "We did not make life, and we cannot change life, but we can use it. And the use of life is through the imagination." And the use of life is through the imagination. We're going to see here what role attention plays in creative life, in your world. We're going to understand the secret power that is in your consciousness in the faculty of attention. Attention. He says, Ernest Holmes says, the use of life is through the imagination, because this faculty has at its roots the very wellspring of life and action. It awakens within us, imagination, it awakens within us all the inner forces of nature and stirs into action latent powers, which otherwise would never come to the surface. It says, it stirs latent powers. Latent to me means light. Sometimes undeveloped. Sometimes unrecognized. Too many times unused. So too many times undeveloped. Latent. One of the latent powers that is within us in our consciousness that we're talking about is attention. The latent power of attention. Attention, Ernest Holmes says this, since the spirit, and he spells spirit with a capital S, since the spirit, another way of saying that is since God, since the spirit is present in its entirety, at all times and in all places. Think about it. Spirit, God, is ever present in its entirety, at all times and in all places. Then it follows that all of spirit, hold on to that. Think about it, because I'm going to shock you. Think about this. Then, all of spirit is wherever we center our attention. Don't we need to think about that? Don't we need to think about that? Because that means right now, whatever has dominated your attention, whatever it is dominating your attention, all spirit is right there expressing it in your life. I'm picturing it in your life, bringing it to pass in your life. Think about it. So if there's something you're experiencing in your life to your not liking, that is unwanted, that is a sickness, that is a problem, that is an impasse in a relationship, that is an impossibility, that is an incurable, that is a fill in the blank, it is only there. And the only reason you're experiencing is because it has dominated your attention. It has dominated your attention. You have given it life. It is your attention that sustains it. And when you turn your attention from it, when you withdraw your attention from it, it has to disappear. That's what spiritual healing is. What we're teaching you here today is the mental work that you do, because this is mental science. You learn here what your role is. Your role is the mental, God role is the spiritual. With imagination, all things are possible. The biblical way of saying that is with God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. How is it that with God all things are possible? Because imagination in you is God. Because imagination in you is God. So he says, Ernest Holmes says, it follows then that wherever we center our attention, its image must concentrate substance into the form of what that attention is on. So let's go back to the scripture, which is our anchor, which is our theme, Psalm 128. Who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to him, you will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours. Amen. What is the Lord? The Lord is the law. The Lord is the law. What we teach in this teaching is the law of mind action. The science of the law. How to use the law for good in your life. It says, you will eat the fruit of your labor. What is your labor? Your labor is the conscious and the unconscious use of this law. That's what your labor is. You will eat the fruit of your labor. Eat means you will experience. Yes. You will live. Yes. You will environ yourself with and by the fruit of your labor. So again, Ernest Holmes, well, I've read that one already. Let's just not repeat that. Now what I'm going to do here is scare you up a little bit. Let's go to the Old Testament. Scare you. Deuteronomy chapter 28. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. All these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. Then it goes on to say, if you don't. Now all these blessings, if you obey the Lord. Then it says, if you refuse to obey the laws written in this book, thus refusing reverence to the glorious and fearful name of Jehovah your God, then Jehovah will send perpetual plagues upon you and upon your children. He will bring on you all the diseases of Egypt that you dreaded, and they will cling to you, and it ain't finished yet. The Lord will also bring on you every kind of sickness and disease not even recorded in this book until you are destroyed. And that's a loving God. Right? That's the Old Testament. Then along comes Jesus. Then along comes Jesus. He said, wait. I come not to destroy the law.
That's right.
I don't come to put this aside. I don't come to say that's not real. I don't come to say, but there's a better way of doing this. That's a better way of teaching this. All that ain't necessary. So Jesus came and he represented the same old teaching in a different way. And it became called the New Testament. Nothing new. The old taught in a different way.
Yeah.
Then along comes people like Dr. Ernest Holmes and Neville, Goldsmith and Fox, and all of these philosophers of today who took that New Testament and distilled it, which means gleaned the same truth out of it, and again 2,000 years ago presented the same teaching in a different way. That's all science and math teaching is. That's all philosophy, New Thought philosophy is, and New Thought teaching is. It is the Bible distilled. It is the Bible translated. It is the Bible put in practical Christianity. That's all it is. So that's what you're getting here. You're getting that Old Testament teaching, you're getting that New Testament version, but you're getting it in a new consciousness. That's all this is. The Living Bible translation doesn't call it the fear of God, the fear of the law, but reverence.
Yeah.
And it simply means respect. So Jesus came along and saying that all the thou shalt not is not necessary. But he emphasized the thou shalt. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Thou shalt do this. Don't be afraid of applying the law because of if you don't do this, this is going to happen.
Right.
Jesus emphasized what happens if you do this.
Come on. That's right.
Not if you don't. But if you do, not if you don't, but when you do, just do the right thing for goodness sake. Just because it's the right thing to do, not because you're afraid not to do it, because you're afraid what's going to happen. That's all. It's presented in a different way. So the result of that teaching is that what's prevalent in human consciousness today, we call it race consciousness, that always was, is, and forever will be, as long as there is a human being living, is that this consciousness will exist. And that is that anything that I am experiencing now, if you're thinking of it from a religious perspective, that is wrong, a sickness, a disease, an incurable, a broken relationship, is because I've done something wrong.
Come on.
What is it that I did? Well, why is this happening?
Right.
And especially if it's incurable, irreversible, not changing, and it's with me when I die. Well, God didn't take it off of me because I deserved it. There was no way you could reverse it. If you could have reversed it, you would have reversed it. And the reason you didn't reverse it, neutralize it, or become healed of it is because you couldn't remove that which sustains it, and that is your attention. And that's what Jesus is teaching. If you can turn from it, if you can withdraw your attention, there's nothing to sustain it.
That's right.
The only thing that gives it life is your attention through your imagination. Science of Mind textbook says this. The use of life is through your imagination. So anything that you're experiencing in life came through your imagination. So the empowerment in that understanding is that anything that the mind has created can be reversed. You can uncreate it. You can undo it. It is not permanent. He says each one of us today is the result of the use he made of the law, either consciously or unconsciously. As soon as we realize this, realize what? Then I need to reread it. Shall I reread it? He says as soon as man realizes this, realize what? Each one of us today is the result of the use he made of the law, either consciously or unconsciously. As soon as we realize this, shall see that what we are now, or what we now have experienced or experiencing now, is the result of what we have thought. If it is the result of what we have thought, the only thing we need to do is rethink, is change our thinking. Again, he continues to say, since the Spirit is present in its entirety at all times and all places, it follows then that all of Spirit is wherever we center our attention. Why did I reread that? Because the purpose of the lesson today is to serve, to train your mind, is to teach you how to use today's teaching as an exercise, as a practice, to put into practice, to change whatever it is that you want to change in your life. So I need you to stop and think a moment about one situation that you know that, or you're ready to manifest as a healing, that you're ready to change in your life. Something that you haven't been able to let go. Something that you haven't been able to reverse. Something that you haven't been able to accept. So, fill in the blank. Or pray with it for somebody. You need to hold that thing in mind right now because of what I just said. Let me reread it. Since the Spirit is present in its entirety at all times and in all places, then it follows that all of Spirit is wherever we center our attention. That thing that you're thinking about only exists because your dominant attention is right there. Come on. So what are you learning to do? How to withdraw your attention. That's what spiritual healing is. Yeah. You do the mental part, God does the spiritual part. Yeah. And it's going to show you how that's done in just a second here. All right? Neville, in your passage, if you're looking at your passage, I took this from the book, The Power of Awareness by Neville. In just a few paragraphs, he says, attention is a force. Attention is forceful in proportion to the narrowness of its focus, that is, in proportion to how you refine it, how you pinpoint it, how you concentrate it, in proportion to the narrowness of its focus. That is, when it is obsessed with a single idea or sensation. It is forceful when it is obsessed with a single idea or sensation. One idea, a single idea. It is steady and powerfully focused only by such an adjustment of the mind as it permits you to see one thing only. It is steady and powerfully focused only by such an adjustment of the mind as it permits you to see one thing only. For you steady the attention and increase its power by confining it. Well, the scripture says, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is not on his problem. Whose mind is not on its impurity. Whose mind is not on its impossible. Whose mind is not on it's been so long. It's mine, whose mind is stayed on so and so died. Look how it, but Psalms 91 says this, the 91st Psalm. 10,000 shall what? Fall. What come? At thy side. But none shall come nigh thee. Meaning, what happened to somebody else ain't got nothing to do with me. Somebody else lost their home because they lost their job. They ain't got nothing to do with it. Somebody else can't do this because his credit score is 329. What's that got to do with it? What's that got to do with you? What does that have to do with you? What happened to somebody else? No. Attention. Attention. The answer lies in attention. The desire which realizes itself. That's right there on your program, so you can take that home. The desire. Your prayer request. This that you're working on. This that you need to manifest. This that you need to cancel out. This that you need to neutralize. The desire knocked at the door of your mind. A divine urge that says, I want to get physical. I want to get physical. That's a spiritual idea that wants to express itself as a healing, as an answer, as a solution, as a change, as a whatever. That's the desire. Day of the Father. Day of desire. Day of the Father. An urge of the Father knocked at the door of your mind. It's time for an idea to be born, and when it's time for an idea to express it, there's nothing in the universe that can stop it except you take your attention from it.
Amen.
And let your attention be distracted onto something else.
That's right.
Because it says, the desire which realizes itself. It realizes itself. It brings itself into fruition. It brings itself into actualization. The only help it needs from you is to keep your attention 100% on it and nothing else. The desire which realizes itself is always a desire upon which attention is exclusively concentrated, for an idea is endowed with power only in proportion to the degree of attention fixed on it, as Donald J. Trump. You can use him as your most clearest example. Now, who could say that and become president except Donald J. Trump? Why? Because he was raised on this stuff. You know anything about the history of his family tree? His dad, they hung around as Napoleon Hill guy. He understood that philosophy and that the power of imagination. Focus on your vision. Anything that you believe in and concentrate on, it can come to pass. There was no force in this universe that could stop that man, and everybody was surprised. That was his mind working. Mind power. That ought to make you go and do anything you want to do. By that example, concentration. The attentive attitude is directed from some specific end. It's bringing you to the close here. And here's the power part of this. The attentive attitude is directed from some specific end. Now what it's talking about here is attention, and it's talking about what attention is comprised of. It says latent powers, right? Imagination releases latent powers. Attention, but within attention, what attention is comprised of is intention and purpose and motive. Okay, so what you're doing here is that this is concentration. You're talking about concentrating your thoughts and your idea, your vision, and everything only on healing, only on health. But you can't do it in some nebulous sense. You got to get involved, use your imagination, and it says go to the end of the desire fulfilled. You have to go to the end of the thing completed. See it already finished, completed, done. And then you got to smell like it, taste like it, walk like it, talk like it, act as though it's already done. The man acted like he was already president. Didn't he? He talked from the end. Let's go back and listen to those campaign speeches. Look at his attitude. He lived from the end of already sitting in that oval room. until his physical stuff caught up with his spiritual stuff. All right? Therefore, when you know what you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of your wish fulfilled until that feeling fills the mind and crowds out all other ideas out of consciousness. Now, that's spiritual talk. That's a spiritual action. Look what happened here that you overlooked. I'm going to reread what you overlooked. I'll read it. Focus your attention on the feeling of your wish fulfilled. While you are doing that, something else is happening. Something else is going on. You don't do this. This part is mental. What goes on is spiritual. What is going on spiritually while you're doing this mentally? Until that feeling fills the mind, this is what's going on. And it crowds out all other ideas out of consciousness. When you focus your attention, you're doing the mental work. Then spiritually, that is what crowds out all other ideas out of consciousness. All ideas of sickness. All our ideas of difficulty. All our ideas of impossibility. All ideas of bad credit. All ideas of... It crowds those ideas out itself on its own if you do your part.
That's right.
That's what spiritual healing is. That's how it works. The great success, the great secret of success is to focus the attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled without permitting any distraction. Well, here's what generally happens, is that as soon as you come out of meditation, as soon as you do all of this work, you let some food. You know any foods? Yeah. You let some food come.
Yes.
John 10:10 talks about the food. It says, but the thief comes not but for to kill, to steal, and to destroy. Some situation comes up. See, it's situations that robs your attention. It's stuff. It's mess. It's bad news. Some bad report. Distraction. The ego. That's the nature of the ego. That's the purpose of the ego. The ego, as long as there's a human being, there's going to be an ego. The ego is going to be with you every 24/7. But you have to not let it distract and take your attention. It is the thief. How does the thief kill, steal, and destroy except primarily through relationships? Child, mother, daughter, wife, husband, neighbor, all these folks. They have their role to play in your life, but they can't control your attention.
Come on.
Nobody can take your attention and cause you to think this way and go that way. That's 100% under your control. 100%. Concentrated observation of one thing shuts out other things and causes them to disappear. That's spiritual healing. We say every Tuesday, not every Tuesday, but most Tuesdays, I remind people of why you go to the doctor. So let me ask y'all, why do you go to the doctor?
Confirmation.
This is the workshop. Talk to them. Confirmation. That's right. You go for a confirmation of your work. You're not going for any bad news report. Just say, okay, the only reason you got a doctor's appointment is to go for a confirmation that my stuff is already done. I just need your equipment. Sure. Put me in your chair. What did I say? I went they told me your blood pressure, my norm is 135 for years. And so that's normal for me. But then I was going through a lot of distraction. Dealing with foods. And I had done with a crazy food on that day. You go on a day when you're real crazy and stuff, and your blood pressure way up there. And then they said, what is wrong with you? You know, I want you to come back in 2 days so we can check this again. But they didn't really want me to leave. I said, okay. And so 2 or 3 days you want me to come back. Well, I had to get my attention. See, I remember I'm teaching this stuff on Tuesday. So I had to get my attention off of that. Right. Well, by the time he told me to come back almost a week later, I know my attention was not totally off of this, so I'm not going to get no blood pressure. So I'm ready for another week later. I had to shake it off. Get your attention off of it and get out of my house. So when I went back again, the woman took my blood pressure. She said, you're 1 point, what is it, above where we would have had to put you on blood pressure medicine. So it was 135, 130, yeah, right under. Anyway, I was back to my normal. Because he wanted to start me on blood pressure medicine on that day. I said, no, give me a little time. Because I know where this is coming from. Do you see what I'm saying? So, your attention. So, you can press toward the mark of filling your mind with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He says, Neville says, this is no easy practice. I don't think this is easy. This is no easy practice. But just as specific exercises greatly help in developing specific muscles, this will greatly help in developing the muscle of your attention. Your attention must be developed. It must be controlled and concentrated in order to change your concept of yourself successfully and thereby change your future. Imagination is able to do anything. Well, that's interpreting the scripture. With God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. What we're saying here today, the translation of that is that with your imagination, all things are possible. Yeah. Imagination is God in you. Yeah. But it says with God, all things are possible. Right. Do you know why most people are sitting there unhealed or not demonstrating whatever? It's because they're waiting for God to do it because that's what their religion is taught. God can heal. God can do anything. And you're brainwashed because God can't. It says with God. Yeah. God is waiting for you. Yeah. God is waiting for you to use that power of God that is in you called Himself, which is your imagination. So you do your part, which is mental, so that God can do His part. That's right. His part. Yeah. Imagination is able to do anything. But only according to the internal direction of your attention. Yeah. If you persist night after night, so how many did we just lose? Getting the crowd out. If you persist night after night, you're not going to do this night after night because you'll be tired. Sleeping. Right? Watching TV. It ain't hurting bad enough yet. If you really want a demonstration or healing or a change, you will do this night after night. Night after night, you will fall into the sleep, into the feeling, into the attitude, and the feeling of already having whatever it is that you're praying for and about. And you can see yourself doing it, going and being and having it, tasting it, smelling it, talking to it talking to you. Get into the feeling of the liveness of it, the reality of it, the realization of it. If you persist in this exercise night after night, sooner or later, you will awaken in yourself. You will awaken in yourself a center of power and become conscious of your greater self. Attention is developed by repeated exercise or habit. Attention is developed by repeated exercise or habit. Through habit, an action becomes easier, and so on in course of time. It gives rise to a faculty which can then be put to higher use. When you attain control of the internal direction of your attention, you will no longer stand in shallow water, but will launch out into the deep of life. You will walk in the assumption of the wish fulfilled as on a foundation more solid even than earth. So, in conclusion, what we've said is this. God in you is your imagination. All things are possible with God. You don't just sit there and pray and wait for God to do something because somebody has brainwashed you and sold you a religious lie. Because God says, yes, with man this is impossible, but with God this is possible. All things are possible because God working through my imagination, all I got to do is be still and stop doing only that which God can do. God can do this thing. Now, when I focus my attention on this, what I'm going to do is awaken my attention and give it life through my intention. And now that gives me purpose. So your intention and your purpose, which awakens a motivation, and then comprise that makes your attention, and that attention now propels that imagination. Why do I choose to use the word propel? Because Neville used it. He knows what he's talking about, but this is what he was talking about. He was translating John chapter 14. I go before you to prepare a place for you. And if I go before you to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. All of that is just what I just said. So what it says is this: your imagination, propelled by your attention, that is comprised of your intention, purpose, and motive, is a spiritual attitude that goes before you into the theory ethos, going upstairs in the upper room to the finishing room. It goes before you and establishes a place for you. And that place for you is the finishing of your desire fulfilled. That's you. You're lying there in the bed asleep, but while you're asleep, you release that vision, that imagination, and it travels. While you sleep, it travels, that consciousness. And what it does, through a way that you do not know how, it sets up things. There's a divine orchestration that begins to fall in place. Everybody who's to be a part of the realization of your healing, your desire, whatever, begins to fall in place. And their minds are being programmed for you on your behalf. Everybody, y'all hear me? Okay. Everything is being set up. The garment is being weaved. Your new physical body is being weaved. Whatever it is that you need in order for this thing to show up in the manifestation, it's happening while you're asleep. Then while you're walking in your waking state, it's still going on all while you're just keeping your attention on healing. Wholeness, the answer, the solution. And every time some distraction comes up, Satan, get thee behind me. And when some fool acts a fool, don't mind your business and shut up. Don't be deceived. Don't be distracted. This thing is going on all the time. You will go. Let me tell you a story. I was working with a lady about 20 years ago, and when she came to the workshop, she was identified as being legally blind. But what happened is that she was functional at some level, and she was a senior person too. She asked me, she didn't have a way to the doctor, this particular appointment. Then I took her to the USC, what they call it, academic out there. Yeah, that's it. And so what happened is that when she sat down It happened that the chief of the department came in just coincidentally. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. Stuff gets set up. He talked to the woman and looked at her chart, and he admonished the man, the physician, in our presence. He talked their language. He said, "Give this woman sight." That's exactly what happened. A few months later, the woman had sight. So what I'm saying to you, when you go to your doctor, what are you expecting? You get what you expect.
That's right.
That's why I train my group. You go for a confirmation of your healing. You don't go to be checking on no sickness.
That's right.
It's already done. You go for confirmation. When you're going to get this card, you're going to get your keys. You ain't going for no mess. You know? If you buy a house, who told you you needed all of this? You are a unique creation of God.
Now.
And so it is.